My hat! Alright, so here we have the built Traxxas Slash. So the servo horn broke, and I mean that's normal. What I mean by that's normal is it's normal if you use the plastic one. So keep in mind there is no servo saver in here. So one of the things that we did is we upgraded the belt crank. So the belt crank is the Traxxas aluminum belt crank, which you can see there. Now, because of the light, you can't really tell, but it's the anodized blue. And then we're running a Savox Servo right in here. And this Savox Servo is all metal gear. So this is the SC1268SG servo. So what ends up happening is you strengthen up the servo and then you strengthen up the belt crank. And your weakest point is now going to be the servo horn. But we left that on there because part of the build, assumption is you're reusing some of the parts. Although here, I mean, if you're going to spend all the money on all this Proline equipment, might as well spend a little more money and get an aluminum servo horn. But still, that was part of it. So after jumping this, bashing it a little, that's what gave out. And like I said, it's pretty normal. So for this, to just replace it, you're going to need your 2mm driver. And this can happen on a regular Slash if you did not do the Proline upgrades just on your regular Slash. When you upgrade your servo or you get rid of the servo saver. The servo saver has a spring, so it's generally spring loaded, and that's what will absorb a good portion of the impact. So when you do these upgrades, what ends up happening is that something needs to give, and what gives is the weakest component. And the weakest component here was the servo horn. So I'm just going to apply a little bit of thread lock. There we go. And I'm just going to place this here. Actually, I should do that last. I'm going to do that last. And the reason why is that the servo horn's already oriented. It's pointing up as it should. So I'm just going to pop this off and then pop this in. That way I don't have to run power through it again. And if I place it here, it's going to make it a little more challenging. All right, so here we go. So remember, on these trucks, you want the servo to be 90 degrees. All right, here we go. And something else that you can do is you can always grab that little piece that broke off and just set it just to make sure that you are 90 degrees. All right, that looks good. Just going to lift, remove, and we'll place this here. So this is what happened. And it broke at an angle, as you can see. So this is the old horn. This is the new one. Now the new one I believe is a little shorter, so at some point I'm probably going to end up replacing with a slightly longer one. And the reason why is if you use a horn that's too short, then your servo may not be able to extend as far as it needs to in order to turn. I'm actually going to check it manually right now without running power. And if you get a servo horn that's too long, you may actually hit other components of your RC. So in this case, you would probably hit this part of the chassis here if the servo horn were to be too long. The advantage of a longer horn, though, if it doesn't hit, is that your servo doesn't have to move as much to give you the same amount of steering, just because the lever arm, the distance from here to here, is going to be longer, so you have a longer throw. If you get a shorter one, you're going to have a shorter throw, so it will have to move more. Now, If it has to move more and it has the capacity, it just means more input on the transmitter. Some transmitters you can adjust that, some you cannot. If you're using the factory Traxxas, you cannot. If you go a longer arm, it will respond quicker. It will take less input from your steering, but that means that you really have to manage your steering to not oversteer it in order to have that same control. All right, so now we just need to install the final screw. I'm just going to hold, so I'm holding the servo horn here so that as I tighten this, I do not move the servo excessively. Right. And that is it. So now I'm going to check, make sure nothing hits. And I'm going to make sure the steering steers, and it does steer fully, so this servo horn will work. So if you look at the tires here, let me zoom out. I'm going to move the servo horn, and there's a servo again. And that is it. So everything moves freely, nothing hits. So this servo horn has found a new home. And that is all you have to do. Thanks for watching.